gosh, guys, I am legitimately going more gray. Had to happen someday, right? What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Dad Diary. I'm pretty sure I can put the lower third over here, but in the event that I can't, welcome to the Dad Diary. Anyway, Danny Jordan here. Hope you guys are having an incredible day, incredible week, incredible month, incredible autumnal season. It is upon us. The leaves are starting to change. It's getting cooler here in Southern California. It even kind of rained the other day. At least I think it rained. It might have just been my sprinklers in my backyard, but I'm like 73% sure it rained. Anyway, welcome back to another installment. You're not here to hear about the weather. I'm not a weatherman. You're here to hear all about our baby, our journey to becoming parents for the first time. Where we left off in the last video was the fact that my wife and I had gone to see a third specialist, which we are so incredibly glad that we had the opportunity to see, because she put a lot of our concerns, not necessarily to bed, but I would say at ease in terms of the likelihood that our baby, who, if you are new to this series, our baby has a limb deficiency in her right forearm, and we had gone to see a pediatric orthopedist who had basically told us that it is almost never an anomaly, it is almost never an isolated incident, and we should prepare ourselves for a syndrome. And then we saw another specialist who presented all of this medical data to us that basically outlined the fact that 70% of the time, these limb deficiencies are isolated incidents. So since then, we've had a lot of peace of mind. However, these last couple ultrasounds that my wife has gone through have revealed and confirmed that our baby is Breech. So as a result of that, we were sent in for what is called a version, or the more elongated version, which is external cephalic version. But for the sake of ease here, we will call it just a version. Or version. I always say aversion because I think of the word aversion, but then I'm also calling it a version. Anyway, you guys don't need to worry about that. That's my problem, not yours. So our doctors recommended that we do version, which my wife and I opted to do. And we went in for that procedure, it was about 3 or 4 days ago now. And let me just tell you, it is an experience. And I don't know if you're familiar with the procedure, but basically what they are trying to do is they give the wife some medication, or your partner some medication through an injection that relaxes the uterus, that enables the doctor to try to manipulate the baby. So what they are trying to do is, if a baby is transverse or if a baby is breech, they want to try to move the baby so they're in the proper position, which is head down, which would mean that my wife or your partner or you could have a traditional vaginal birth. So here's how it goes. You arrive at the hospital and you actually go to the labor and delivery ward, because there are some potential, though very rare, things that can happen that would require an emergency C-section. Some of those things that can happen is the baby can become distressed. They are monitoring the baby the entire time via fetal monitor, external fetal monitor, as well as ultrasound, so they can see if the baby's becoming distressed in any way, and if they become overly stressed out, or maybe the umbilical cord gets pinched, or anything happens, immediate emergency C-section. You can also have the placenta detached from the uterus. You can have the placenta tear. Again, I cannot stress that these sort of incidents, these things are very, very rare. However, because they can happen, it's imperative that you are in the labor ward so they can immediately whisk you off to the operating room. But again, very rare. So what they do is they admit you. It's much like you are going in to have your baby. You get admitted into a labor room. Your wife or you will be put into a hospital gown. They get you all set up. They take your vitals. You'll meet with a nurse. I mean, it is the full check-in. They're writing the names up on the whiteboard, the whole sort of situation. They got, my wife set up with, I'm gonna totally, miss the pronunciation, but it's basically an IV. I think it's called H-lock or something to that effect. I'm probably getting it wrong, which means I will put it right here so that way you know what it actually is. Anyway, that's all in the event that, again, a very rare thing happens and they need to whisk you off to the operating room. So once they get you set up, the doctor comes in, does an ultrasound just to confirm that yes, your baby is breech, or yes, your baby is transverse, or hey, miraculously, your baby's moved and you can go home now. However, in our case, that was not the situation. Our baby was totally breech when we went in. So what they did at that point in time is they gave my wife the injection to relax her uterus. It usually takes about 10 to 15 minutes for the medication to take full effect. One of the side effects actually is that the partner, the female, will start to get a little bit anxious. Her heart rate speeds up a little bit. So dudes, partners, if you are there with your lady, comfort her, try to make her laugh, take her mind off of what's about to happen, because what's about to happen, it's intense. I'm just gonna get right into it. So basically, they gave my wife the medication, and then they bring in these oils, and they just lubed up my wife's entire abdomen. Once her abdomen was lubed up, the doctor basically starts squeezing the belly to a point where I swear to God, I could see like the entire shape of my baby, my daughter. And I didn't want my wife to look at it because I knew that would freak her out. So I was trying to take her mind off of it by just kissing her, talking to her, sort of, massaging her neck a little bit, massaging her temples, helping her breathe, all these, exercises we learned in childbirth preparation class. It is crazy, for the record, how you're sitting in these classes sometimes and you're like, I'm never gonna use this. This is so incredibly silly. And then you're in the moment and you're like, I'm totally using this right now, and I'm giving the hand massage and the temple massage and the neck massage and breathing with her and encouraging her, which is what you should do. Partners, be there to encourage, because this situation, once I could see the shape of the baby, they basically are just trying to put as much pressure, it's like the deepest of deep tissue massages, to move the baby down into the proper head down position. In our situation, they tried going one direction, so to my wife's right first. Didn't work. He said, okay, well, let's try this again. Lubes her up with a little bit more oil. Then he tried to go the other direction, which was the longer way around, but he thought, you know what? Let's see if we can get it. Let's see if we can get her to move. Didn't move. So basically, the doctor at that point in time presented us with the option of attempting one more time. He said, he wasn't confident that he could get the baby to move, and the specialist that we had seen at the other hospital after her ultrasound and just seeing the baby's positioning, and even though she had ample amount of fluid inside, which is another thing that they check before they do the procedure, they just want to make sure there's enough fluid inside for the baby to actually move around, because if they can't move, then it's silly to attempt. But he presented us with the option of trying it again, and my wife and I are very much of the mind that if things are meant to happen, they will happen. If you're in the flow of energy, if you're in the flow of life, things just work out, and we trusted going into this procedure that if she was meant to move, that she would move. Because the reality is that though 97% of babies are head down, that doesn't necessarily mean, one, that they're even gonna be born vaginally. Two, if they'd been able to move our baby, there was no guarantee that she was gonna stay. And three, if she stayed there, the reality is that there might be a medical reason why she is where she is. She may not be able to move. There might be something blocking her. My wife's uterus might be too tight. Her umbilical cord may not be long enough. That's a thing that can happen as well. Sometimes babies don't have umbilical cords that are long enough for them to get into the quote unquote proper head down position. So all those factors coming into play, my wife and I decided to not do another attempt. We just trusted that this is just the way that our baby needs to be born. And more than anything, I wanted to give that decision to my wife, because making that decision means that she's going to have a C-section. And basically at the end, they come in, they schedule your C-section, which for us is 10 days from today, which is absolutely insane that I'm gonna be a dad in 10 days, but I am so thrilled to finally meet this little girl. And then after you schedule your C-section, you stick around for about an hour and a half, 2 hours. They are consistently monitoring the baby via fetal monitor, monitoring her heart, monitoring her movements, which, let me tell you, it's funny how in life you drop this idea of the way things will go, and the way that they will be perfect. And this is like the perfect way that everything's gonna happen. But, even though our baby's not gonna be born traditionally, and my wife has had to endure so much, which I am so grateful for, the fact that we got to, hear the baby on the fetal monitor was honestly one of the coolest experiences, because as a dad, you don't get to feel every single movement for the most part that babies make. If they have hiccups, if they're kicking, if they're rolling over. And though I know women, it can be incredibly painful and incredibly uncomfortable, there is that connection that forms, and hearing our baby, not just her heart beating, but literally every single time she would kick, every time she would move, her elbow or punch or roll over, you could hear it on the fetal monitor. And it was so cool to hear it, watch the spikes go on the screen and see my wife react and know that that was our baby moving around inside of there. It's one of the coolest things, and you can't describe it. And I know, and again, I think it gave me more appreciation and more respect. Not that I didn't already have an insane amount of respect for my wife and every woman who's gone through this in the history of time, but to hear how loud it is and how sudden some of those booms and whooms and booms, and to see the spike go up, you realize as a husband, as a partner, everything to an extent, as much as you can, what the female is going through virtually every single day in pregnancy. And that brings me to something that I really want to talk about that I haven't addressed enough, I don't think, in the Dad Diary, and that is my respect and my appreciation for my wife. Let me tell you, if you've had a significant other that has been pregnant, you've seen what women go through, and it's one thing to be pregnant and to go through everything about your world changing. Your body is changing, your sleep cycle is changing, your emotions are changing. Everything that is you is changing to a certain extent. And we as men, as the ones who are not pregnant, we can't understand it because we've never been there. But I see everything that's happening. And then you add on top of it our pregnancy in particular, or any pregnancy that has some sort of complications, knowing that our daughter has this limb deficiency, going through all the emotions, the roller coaster that we have been on, with feeling like we had answers, then not having answers, then being told, horribly, upsetting things, and then having those upsetting things erased and said that, you don't need to worry about this as much as you think you do. On top of just growing another human being inside and having her entire body and everything about who she is changing, my wife has navigated this pregnancy with such grace and with such strength and resiliency, and I know that it has not been easy. I'm not even growing a baby inside of me. I'm not going through all of those changes that she's going through, and a lot of days are really hard for me with the information that we have received about our baby over the last few months, and to see her not only be this warrior, this strong, incredibly powerful woman who is so committed to carrying this child and nourishing her and making sure that she has everything that she needs, but on top of that everything that we've gone through, with all the information that we've received, that my wife has never wavered. She's always been strong. She's been there for me when I've needed to express my emotions. When I have needed to be weak, she has been strong. And I am so incredibly grateful for her, and I am so incredibly impressed by the strength that women possess. It is something that I will never know. And I'm just so thankful to have a woman like my wife in my life. And for those of you who have partners that are strong, because there are so many incredibly strong women out there, tell them thank you today. Tell them thank you, whether they've carried your child, whether they have raised your children, whether they have just kept your home in order, whether they've been there to support you and encourage you, everything that they've done every day to make your life what it is. Tell them thank you today. Tell them that you love them today, because I am so incredibly in love and grateful for my wife. I know she's watching this, so babe, I want you to know that I love you and I'm so grateful for you, and every day I work as hard as I can to earn your love, and I know it is something to be earned, because you are a force, and I am so fortunate to have you in my life. Anyway, that's what was on my mind. That's what was on my heart today. We are 10 days out from our little girl being here, which is complete insanity, complete excitement, complete everything. There are moments where it hits me when I walk past her room and I see all her stuff in there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, my little girl at some point is gonna be sleeping in there. She's gonna be crying in there. I'm gonna be changing her incredibly explosive bowel movements in there, and it is the craziest thing. You know, I think some people are scared. There's a little bit of fear, obviously, with everything that's going on, but I honestly don't think I've ever been more prepared for something so big in my life. And it really makes me think about years ago, because I've known I wanted to be a dad, and I just wanted to be a dad for so long. I just felt it upon my heart. And I remember years ago, I was talking to one of my cousins, you know, about, oh man, when will I know that like it's time? When will I know that I'm ready? And he said to me, he goes, you're ready when you have a kid. That's how you know you're ready. That's how you know it's time. You're ready when you're ready. And I didn't really understand that. I was like, well, that seems like a cop-out. But then my wife got pregnant, and then we watched our baby growing, and we heard her heartbeat, and we went through the struggles that we've gone through with her limb deficiency and Breech, and I could not be like, though that's emotional, it's hard. It is the most incredible thing to just be ready. How do I put this? Yes, I know that there are going to be sleepless nights. There are going to be exhausted mornings and afternoons and nights and disgusting diapers and a whirlwind of emotion and exhaustion and confusion, but like there's something about it that when I think about it, it's so exhilarating to me. Like it is the greatest gift that you are bestowed with this responsibility to go through all of that, to face all of that every day, that this life has been put in your hands. And I know that she has been put in our hands, and for that I am grateful, and for that I am just ready to hold her, because it has been the hardest thing for nearly 4 months now, over 4 months now. It's been the hardest thing to know that there are things that my daughter will need help with. There is encouragement that she will require. And I haven't been able to do anything about it. So I'm just ready for her to be here, to shower her with love, and to raise her to be this strong, incredibly powerful individual. And I'm so grateful. In 10 days, she's coming into this world, unless she has, you know, another trick up her sleeve, which with this one at this point, I would not be surprised. But in 10 days, my wife's going in for a C-section, and we're gonna have a little girl, and I can't wait to meet her. Between now and then, I've got some other videos that I'm gonna post on here, some stuff that I have captured over the last few months, some final thoughts that I have as I prepare for her to arrive. But again, I just wanna say thank you to each and every one of you who have watched this series, who have supported my wife and myself and our baby. We love you all. We are so grateful. Have an incredible day. I'm gonna say goodbye with peace, and you know how we do it. Love.